Hey y'all, CB here at NBS Welding. Doing some handrails, and these are actually handrails that are going to go on my house, my rental property. These are handrails that aren't required for code, but we've got a tenant moving in that's got special needs and would like to have some extra handrails, something to hang on to. So we're going to take care of her. I'll show you some video that I shot when I was there. That was my dimension measuring video that I brought back to get started. So that was just that was the video I shot for myself, and all of that will probably make a little more sense when you look at the drawing, and if it doesn't, it'll make a lot more sense when we actually get there to install the handrails. But I'll show you the drawing anyway. I drew it to scale with a pencil. And I've said before, the way I do scale drawings with a pencil is, like knowing that from the house out to the end of the concrete step was 55 1/4. Before I even started, I was able to surmise that it was roughly 55 inches. And I said, well, I'm going to draw it on a piece of regular paper, and I want it to fit on there. Well, I started dividing 55 1/4 by numbers. I think I started out dividing it by 9. And then I divided it by 8. And then I divided it by 7. And when I divided it by 7, I came up with a measurement that fit on the paper like I wanted it to. So then, to make a scale drawing like this, where I have a 2x4 that's to scale, a 4x4 post that's 3 5/8 OD to scale, the 8-inch overhang to scale. You can scale draw like that on here by dividing all your measurements by the same number. All of my actual measurements I divided by 7. And then use that number to draw them on my drawing. I've cut some pipe already. I've cut some plates already. Another drawing that I made is plates that tie into those 2x4s that the pipe's going to get welded to. So that'd be one of them in place like this. Going to be a bolt there, and the end of my handrail gets welded right there. That's what that circle is. And this is a plate I burnt out. And the way I did this is actual size. I drew it actual size. I laid it on a piece of steel. Where I wanted my holes, I just center punched, right through where I drew it in. And that, gives me that. The other one I'm using right here. We'll clean those up with a grinder and get that going, and we'll weld the pipes together in a minute. But one of the things I wanted to show you, I have 4 places where I need to weld caps on this 1 1/4 pipe, which is 1 5/8 outside diameter. And this jig right here is actually for burning holes in square tubing, something I made years ago for burning holes in square tubing. But I think that I can burn caps with it. I think it will produce the right size caps to weld on that pipe. So I'm going to be taking a torch and using this jig to follow 4 times to make 4 caps, and I'll show you that because this works really well for me as this type of jig for burning circles works really well for me, and I've made a lot of them different ways. Now, if I was using the outside piece and I was burning holes with a jig like this, I'd burn right through the center with the torch, and then I'd come out to the edge and I'd follow the torch tip around. This is going to be different because I'm actually using the core. So I'm going to angle the torch over and blow the hole kind of outside and then straighten up the tip and then burn around. So hopefully I'll film that so you can see it. And we'll get these 4 caps cut, weld some handrails together, and move on to, I got to build a mailbox bracket also. So we'll get to work. So using that jig like I did gave me little round caps to weld on my pipe, and I'll be welding 4 of these on, and the way I'll be doing that is I'll just tack a welding rod on to the cap and use that to set it in place. It'll give me something to hold on to because I don't have, this isn't very easy to hold right into the end of the pipe like I need to. So let's do that, and we'll go ahead and weld these handrails up. what we're looking at when we look at we're looking at the side of this handrail when we're looking at what right now looks like the top. And you can see how I used a piece of 1.5 inch square tubing right here and right here. There's the bracket that's going to bolt over towards the house. But the reason for the 1.5 inch square tubing, these manufactured brackets, they're pretty nice brackets. These are handrail brackets that you can buy. These work really well with that 1.5 inch. You want 1.5 inch between, like in this case, between the post and the handrail, where you got clearance for your hand behind there. You want 1.5 inches. So that's the reason I got the 1.5 inch square tubing up there and did it that way to put that on. I'm as far as I'm going to go in the shop with those handrails. So all of that will make more sense when we get there. The next thing I'm looking at is this mailbox. And the strange thing about the way I want to mount this mailbox is I would like to bolt this part right here of that mailbox to the side of that 4x4 post. Like if I take this 4x4, this is the post. That's how I'd like to put that mailbox there. And this mailbox is designed to be on a post directly underneath, which in the situation that I'm in and what I'm doing, that's not desirable. And this is not strong enough to just put a hole in it right here and drill it. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do, rather than do something to the outside, I think I'm going to bend some aluminum on the brake that'll actually go inside of this mailbox and strengthen it from the inside. I'm going to try it. So that bent piece of aluminum inside of there, that's going to strengthen that mailbox quite a bit. I cut those screws off and, you know, got everything in here sanded flat. And mostly the function of the mailbox. Function of the mailbox is good. That's what concerned me, because it's kind of rounded, and I thought, man, if I bolt that tight to something that's just 90 degrees, you know, what if the door doesn't work? The fact that that's working, we're looking good. I'm going to put that back in the box. That'll protect it till we get there. And all this will probably look a lot better and make a lot more sense when we get there and get it installed. Yeah. Hey, y'all. We're here at the house where the handrails go. And we got to get the doozing done. So let me show you what's up. Now, these two handrails will be the ones that go right here, and then I'm going to attempt to put the mailbox on that post right there. The idea being that I don't want the handrails too close to the door. I'm going as far outward as I can, but still inside the posts. And the idea being that we want her to have something to hold on to, but we don't want it to be so close to the door that it makes it hard to move things in and out. So giving us that few inches outside the door framing hopefully is gonna work for that. I brought the handrails, got them leaned up right there, so we'll be putting those on. Now, the handrail that goes right here, see, none of these are really code required handrails. These are just handrails that she needs for her special needs purposes, just to give her a little extra to hold on to. As far as these steps right here, if you've got a right hand down handrail, as far as the code, you're good, and we've got that. But we want, for her needs, handrails on both sides. There in the front, that front stoop's only 5 inches high. You don't need handrails at all at 5 inches high. But for her to step out of the house and be able to get a hold of something when she gets the mail and stuff, or if she's watching her dog take a pee or whatever, that's what we're here to help her out. So the interesting thing, or the thing that I had to do on this, when I measured that length, this is just a straight 1¼ inch pipe handrail that's capped on the ends. And it would have been nice if I could have went ahead and put them brackets on it. But the thing was, when we were here and met and found out that we needed to do this, I didn't have anything to find the studs. And so that's a big part of this. And see, I came to the inside to find the studs. And by the time I had found all the studs I wanted to find, I had poked 10 holes. But that's why I did it in here. I don't want to poke 10 holes in the exterior. This is a lot easier to patch. So let me show you what I did. I came in here, I was, pretty much tapping on the wall. Hear that right there? That's pretty solid. Here you're hollow. I found that, and I took this nail and I poked it in here. And on this first go, I had 3 holes on this side and 3 holes on this side. And by making the holes I made, I determined where the outer edge of that stud is at. And then I put this black mark there, which is the dead center of that stud. And then studs are supposed to be 16 inches on center. So I come over here the 16 inches. And the next thing I did on these, and the reason that I was able to just do this with 2 holes, is I was able to take my nail and drive it in that way and miss the stud, and then drive it in that way and hit the stud. And I did the same thing here. I drove it in that way and missed the stud. I drove it in that way and hit the stud. So I knew I was at the corners and the 16 inches was correct, and I did the same thing there. So once I did that, I was able to come over here and look at the opening. And what I would be looking for is something that I could measure from that would be the same inside and out. And I determined that if I measure from right here to where I've got studs, it would be the same thing as measuring from right here. I look at this and I can see that this and this is pretty well lined up square with the house. So I'm taking my measurement from right here, and then I have to come over. Okay, so what we're doing out here, once I've got, see, I got a mark right there. That's the center one, and we don't really need that one. But from that one, I went 16 inches that way and 16 inches this way, and I use the level where I need, you know, to find as far as elevation. And I want this, I want the top of this handrail 2 foot 10 inches from the nose of the step. So I go from the nose of that step, I go up 2 foot 10 there. From here I go up 2 foot 10, and I make me a mark. And then I make me well, I actually didn't make a full mark from there to there. I did it by using a straight edge. I just took a 4 foot straight edge like this, which it's kind of a coincidence, but this pipe's actually 4 foot long too. So when I was holding my 4 foot aluminum straight edge up there, it was like I was holding the pipe up. Well, the next thing that I know about these brackets is when the 1 1/4 pipe, which is 1 13/16 I think outside diameter, or 1 5/8 outside diameter, whatever it is, when the pipe is on these brackets from the top of the handrail 90 degrees down to where your hole's going to be is 4 inches. So when I knew where the top of my handrail was, I come down 90 degrees on the angle of the handrail and try to find the intersection from there to the straight line that I've made where the center of the stud is. And when I find that intersection, I put my brackets on there. And I got the brackets on there with a GRK modern lag bolt. These are a little more gooder than the old lag bolts. They're pretty schmatzy. I like them. I've used them a lot. They are strong. They self-tap. They drive into just about everything. Now, since this is stucco, I did take a masonry bit and poke through in about 3/4 of an inch. But the rest of it, the screw found its own way. And another thing I've done here is I don't have it crazy tight. I'm going to be putting that pipe up there and tack welding it, and if I need to wiggle this a little bit to get this to line up just right on the pipe, then we'll wiggle it and get it right. And then the ones up on the front are pretty much just going to be marking the elevation, getting them level, and putting those on with probably the same fasteners. The GRK lag bolt type bolt. We're probably going to use the same thing. These may be so long that in that 4x4 post that's actually 3 5/8 OD, I might have to cut them off. I'm not sure. We'll have to see about that. I don't want them to poke out the other side, that's for sure. If they're going to do that, we're definitely going to be cutting them off. But the main idea with this for today is that I want to get these things bolted up, and I'll get my little bit of welding done here. I don't have a lot of welding. I'm not dressed to weld, but we're going to make it work. I want to get the things bolted up there, and then I'm going to take them back off, and I'm going to paint, but I'm going to focus on painting just the brackets. And the reason I say that is A lot of times when you're rushing stuff with paint, you'll beat up your paint job. You'll scratch it up so bad that you're better off not even doing it. I would rather wait than have it than rush wet paint and touch it and get fingerprints all over it and scratches in it and all that. What I want to do today was just the day we drove down here. I'm going to leave the pipe handrails raw and paint the brackets. Once I know that everything's right and they're just going to bolt right up. And I'm just going to paint the brackets. Then I can still handle the raw handrail without hurting anything. I won't be scratching paint. I won't be getting fingerprints in wet paint or any of that. But tomorrow, when the paint that's on the brackets is dry, then I can grab the raw pipe and I can install it. Then when it's installed, I'll paint the pipe. And when it's installed and I'm painting the pipe in place, I don't need to touch it. You know, I don't need to mess with it. So that's what I'm going for, trying to do here. So let's get it. We're looking good. I'm glad that mailbox worked. It's plenty sturdy. It's functioning well. That piece of aluminum that we bent and put inside of it, you know, that's going to hold all the packages you'd ever need to hold. These 8 screws, it's going through that 1/8 inch aluminum bent plate and then through the mailbox and into the wood, is going to be plenty secure. So like I said, I'm going to take these back off there just like I did the other one. Clean up just the brackets. I'm going to paint the bracketry where it bolts onto the house, and and that's it. when you're putting something up like this, you want sealer in these holes, and it's nice. This isn't something I'm not gonna use paintable stuff back in that hole. I'm gonna use the pure silicone, the really good stuff, and it should all be covered up, and if any of it oozes out, I'm gonna clean it off. But what you'll find is that when you've got a hole drilled in something like this stucco, and you try to put your silicone sealer around the hole or in the hole, it won't go in the hole. And if you try and push it in there with a putty knife or something, the air inside of there is going to prevent it from going in the hole. It'll just seem like you can't get it in there. There's a trick to it. Using your lag bolt, you want to actually use the lag bolt that you're installing and rotate it backwards. So I want to show you that. So that's going to be a place right there. You're not going to have to worry about getting moisture through your stucco there. Now, if you just put a big daub of that silicone over the hole and run the bolt tightening ways, I don't think you'll break up the air pocket in there the way that you need to and press some of the silicone in the hole, because your silicone would ride up the bolt. You want it to do the opposite. So I took my fingers and I just rotated it backwards, and I got some of that to go in there, and I feel real confident here that we're not going to have a problem with moisture getting into the wall. Taking a look back inside of here where I'd been poking holes at the top of the trim with the nail, and making marks. I took painter's caulking and smoothed over that and hit it with some paint. Never know that ever happened there. Should be fine. Let's take a look at the handrails. We come outside here. I've got them all painted up and put in. And these are kind of what I would call special needs handrails, because when a step's 5 inches high, you normally don't have a handrail. But if somebody's older or walks with cane or whatever, a little extra handrails gives them some security, something to grab onto. Good handrail height is 34 inches, 2'10". Another height to remember is 42 inches. So either 34 inches on a handrail height or 42 inches is like a guardrail height. When I say guardrail, I'm talking about if you're putting a railing around something that's up high to keep people from falling off. 42 inches there. A handrail for a person to grab a hold of as they walk, 2'10" or 34 inches. So that's what we've got here, is the 34-inch height. And when you measure this height on a step, it goes from the nose of the step. So when I took a measurement originally, I went from the nose of this step, I went up 34 inches and I made a mark. I went from the very nose of the platform straight up 34 inches made a mark. So these three handrails in the mailbox, and we can take another look at the mailbox where I ran them screws through and sanded them off. That leaves no protection for the end of the screw, so I did put some paint on in here. I don't know how big of a benefit it would be, but the key to this working, the way I bolted that flimsy mailbox to that post, is that 1/8 inch aluminum bent plate that we added to it. That's adding all the strength. I mean, you could probably stand on this. You know, if the mailbox wasn't here, I could probably get up there and stand on that plate. So getting that to hold mail, obviously, that's not going to be a problem. That's it for this one. I want to thank y'all for watching, and learn how to work with what you got. That way you always have everything you need.